Welcome back, everybody, to the Rock and Blues Experience. And coming up on this edition, I'm joined by two members of one of rock music's most enduring and iconic bands who over 5 decades have written and performed songs that have become part of the fabric of music culture. They are Lynyrd Skynyrd and Johnny Van Zant and Rickey Medlocke join me to talk about the brand new live album celebrating 50 years recorded at the famous Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. Just a few things before we get there. We start by staying with another legendary live band, Status Quo. They've been performing now for, over 6 decades? And they've recently released a remastered and mixed version of the fabled live album, recorded over 3 nights at the Glasgow Apollo back in October of '76. John Coughlin is the original drummer with the Quo, and he joined me about a week or so ago to talk about that album, and in particular performing at one of their favourite venues, the Glasgow Apollo.
How excited were you when you got there at the prospect of recording this first ever live Quo album? I mean, it's a big deal for any band back then.
Oh yeah, you're worried about all the time, thinking, I hope nothing goes wrong. I hope I remember all the songs, which you do, of course. It's just that sudden fear of dare I forget to come in at the right place or do a terrible drum break, and when you're not supposed to do a drum break. But it all went well. It was great, and it was a great place to be in Glasgow, because we stayed in a nice hotel right close to the Apollo, and all the fans could look through the window and see us in the bar. And Bob Young, there's Bob Young, Bob Young, Jim the chauffeur, me and Rick, and they wouldn't go. You see, the hotel locked the door so they couldn't come in, and they started taking pictures of us in the bar, leaning against the bar. And I think one day, I think it might have been Bob or Rick said, I know, I got an idea. Let's drop our jeans now. So we all dropped our trousers. And of course, it made everything worse. And 50,000 cameras going, fresh. And old Jim, the chauffeur, he was funny. He said, "Oh, John, don't tell Vera because she'll divorce me." It was okay. It was only your underpants, but yeah, a great days at Glasgow. It was 100%, 1,000% gig. It was just lovely. Love playing there.
Well, that was John Coughlin. You can see the full version of that feature. It is available now on the website, YouTube, and Facebook. As you know, we aren't all about the legends of rock and blues, because the future of these genres depend on the new generation of bands and talent out there. One of the very best at the moment come from Canada, The Damn Truth. Their self-titled follow-up to Now or Nowhere came out earlier this year to rapturous praise across the media spectrum. The album was produced by one of the titans of the industry over the last 4 decades, the Grammy Award-winning Bob Rock. I caught up with Lee LeBaum, Dave Traynor, and P.Y. Letelier recently to talk about the album and what looks to be a very bright future indeed. Here's a clip from that feature where we talked about the moment that Bob Rock, after hearing this new music, paid the band the ultimate compliment.
When I hear you, I feel the spirit of Led Zeppelin. Those were his words. Now, to be mentioned in the same breath as a band, for some, who are the greatest rock and roll band ever, by a producer who's been involved in some of the biggest selling albums ever. This is just the endorsement that you want, isn't it? I mean, this is huge.
Totally. I mean, absolutely, like that. Yeah. Like that moment, because that was what he told us on that first initial phone call. And he was like, I was listening to the demos, and I hear the essence. I hear. The minute he said that, it was just, you get it, you get us, you get it. I mean, we absolutely adore Zepp and adore, that time in music. The 60s and 70s were from our biggest inspirations in music. And it's just, it was like the clincher. It was like, okay, he knows exactly what we want to do, and we're going to do it, and we're very, 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 very amazed and humbled, but at the same time, we really believe that we could do this. That we could do this together. That Bob will elevate us to that next level, and he did.
Well, the Damn Truth are currently preparing to hit the road around Europe this month, and they will be in the UK in November. So check out the dates and ticket details on their website. And if you haven't heard or got the album, you are missing out on what is one of the best releases this year so far. Now, what is there to say about Lynyrd Skynyrd? Dwayne Allman once said that rock music was born in the South and that the best music comes from the heart and the soul. And that is what Lynyrd Skynyrd have been producing and playing since a chance moment brought the original members together back in Jacksonville, Florida in 1964. The last week has seen a very poignant release celebrating 50 years live at the Ryman Auditorium, Nashville. Now, those who were there didn't know it at the time, but it would be the last ever live performance of the last founding member, Gary Rossington, who sadly passed away just months later. Now, there is a chance for all those who weren't lucky enough to have been there to experience and feel the emotion of a very special night. The band are currently on the road around Europe before returning home in August. I met up with Johnny Van Zant and Rickey Medlocke to talk about the album and a continued bright future ahead for the band.
Celebrating 50 years then at the Ryman Auditorium, the live album, the DVD. And what we've got here isn't just a live recording, is it? This is a moment in time, a moment in music history and heritage, a night when a chapter in this amazing story of one of music's most iconic bands that began literally on that Little League baseball pitch in Jacksonville, Florida in 64, when Ronnie sent that ball that dropped Bob Burns, and Gary and Anna, they all came together and the journey began. But this night, a chapter concluded at the Ryman when Gary performed for the final time. There is a very different feeling watching and listening to this as there would be to another album. Very different
little
feeling
did
indeed.
we know that it was going to be his last performance with us. We luckily we had the cameras rolling, and this thing was set out to do a PBS special, and we were just, it was just a thing that we wanted to help out and do it at the beautiful Ryman Auditorium there, the Mother Church in Tennessee. But you're right, it was a very special night. None of us were uptight. Usually when you're doing a filming, you're very uptight because you want everything to go right. And it was kind of like, okay, well, let's go play some songs, and hopefully they capture it on video. And, but we had a great time doing it. I'm glad that we had this opportunity, to be able to put it out to our fans. And I think Gary would want that. Leading up to this, he was very sick. And even called me and Ricky and said, hey, man, I might have to sit down whenever I'm playing. Hell, he stood up the whole time. Had some great guests on this who came in and wanted to be a part of this. We're fans of them. They're fans of the music of Lynyrd Skynyrd. And an amazing night.
As you said, he called you that previous week. Do you think it was the adrenaline mixed with the occasion? Because when he got there, he turned to you and just said, I ain't sitting down.
No, I think it was his love of the music and his love of the band, and not wanting to show us guys and gals and whomever show any kind of weakness.
Yeah.
And I think for the love of the band and the music gave him the strength to stand there and play.
This is a guy who survived an airplane crash. This is a guy who survived multiple car wrecks.
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff in his life, and he was one tough bird, and like Ricky said, he was a very proud guy. So no matter what, he was going to stand and play those songs that he played with us that night, and we had a great time in the dressing room. We hung out and talked smack, and with my brother, me, Ricky, and my brother, and Gary, and just a great night overall. And I'm glad that we're getting it out to the fans. You know, I think, like I said before, I think Gary would be like, yeah, you better put it out.
Yeah, because you said you were talking about backstage before the gig. You said it was really like the old days. You know, 4 of you crammed into a tiny dressing room, and you got cold pizza.
We had suitcases in there. There was a shower. I was showering. They were banging on the door. What are you doing in there? You know, so it was a lot of fun looking back on it, and amazing night. And I think me and Ricky lived to be 100 years old.
Yeah.
You know, we won't forget that moment in time. And you know, again, there's a great documentary that we put together with this package that, hell, I cry at my kids' graduations and things like that. And, you know, but we grew up on the west side of Jacksonville. Guys don't cry too much. But at the end of this, I actually had tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, did you have, I know you like to have what you call a nip and tuck before you get out on stage. Did you all stand there in that dressing room? What was it like when you got the call, the knock on the door came, and like you said, you didn't know it was going to be the last time, but there was a feeling that it could be. So when you all stood up to go, did you have a drink? Did you have a nip and
you know
tuck?
what? Really, none of us really drink anymore. I mean, you know, it's not one of those things. You know what? At our age, we did enough of drinking to. Hell, there was a line and give me back my bullets. I've drank enough of whiskey to float a battleship around. That's the God's truth here. And I always have a little nip and tuck. I mean, it helps the throat, but I'm not a drinker. I don't even really like the taste of whiskey that much. Anymore. Now I used to, but you know what? You said there might be a hint that it could be his last gig. There was no hint on that. I honestly thought Gary was going to be here today with us, and you know, because he had survived so many things and such a tough guy, and or maybe in my head, you know, I didn't want to believe that, you know, but at that particular time, I was thinking, okay, he's gonna be on another show. He's gonna do another show with us, you know, and you know, unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
When the show is going, the songs, pretty much timeless classics, each and every one that bring a smile to your face, and you listening in, watching this package that you've put out, and you're remembering some of the stories behind the songs, and all summed up, I think, by Gary when he said once, the more wild experiences you have, the better the songs you write.
That's pretty much true.
That is true.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. You know what? I know my brother Ronnie. He took everything in, he soaked it in, and wrote about what he knew to write about and what was real.
Yeah.
And you know, it amazes me these days. You know, we're sitting here getting ready to play a gig tonight, and I know when we go into Simple Man, I'm going to see people crying, singing, smiling. And it's just an amazing thing, the words that were written and the music that was written and that time back then when they first started out. And it's carried on. There's 4 generations of Skynyrd fans out here now. And we're here in Europe, and the first 3 shows have been amazing. I mean, really, really amazing. And it's good to feel that the music's still alive and well. And these fans, you know, I always tell people, and I think Ricky had testified to this, you know, Skynyrd made great records, but to see it live, to hear those songs live is an amazing
There's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. And
What is it, by the way, about these songs that makes them resonate for today's audience? You look around at life, everything available 24/7, social media, everything. And these songs are primarily about simple life, simple times. Do you think that people listen and think, I wish I was back there when life was less complicated?
I think that Ronnie wrote for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a bricklayer, construction worker, or a doctor or lawyer, or the secretary or school teacher. Everybody could get next to the tunes. They could relate to them. He wrote for the everyday person.
Yeah, and I think you know what, you're talking about modern times and people want to live those old times.
Yeah.
I know for myself, I like things simple. You know?
Yes.
I mean, a lot of this computer stuff's all great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all awesome. We're talking to you right now because of it. But boy, did I like being able to, you know, pick up a phone and have a little space without a phone. So I think, you know, they're timeless, man. They're timeless. I think there's people going through a song like That Smell. There's people going through drug addiction, you know, is rampant. And that song is going to be, you know, it's probably helping somebody, you know. And simple, man, who don't want to make your mama happy? You know, who don't want to be a simple man? The old saying is you can win the world but lose your soul.
True.
And that means you can have all the material things in life, but you know what? Being simple is a really good thing, you know.
Yeah, the simple ideology. Gary's quote again, and he said, every song should tell a story that people.
And you know, I think that's what
to.
made Skynyrd still here today. Is that, you know what? There wasn't many love songs. A lot of bands were, I love you, and you know, and 14 love songs. But every song has a story, and people relate to that. And music is a great healer, you know, it really is. And you know what? When we lost Gary, honestly, we got a call from Dale, and we had a show planned in Florida, and we were like, well, we're going to cancel. And she was like, hey, you know what? He'd be very disappointed in you guys if you don't go play that show. So we went and played that show, went back to Jacksonville, and had his celebration of life. And it was a tough show to play, but we knew that he would be going, I'm going to kick your ass if you don't get out there and do this. You know, and that's just the way he was. That's the way Skynyrd's been, and it's the way it's going to be.
It's ironic, isn't it? Here, the show obviously always ends with Freebird, one of the earliest compositions of Allen Collins.
Right.
The one that the record company didn't want. They didn't want it on the album. People didn't think anybody would play it due to its length. But it's just one hell of a sign-off. There are very few bands that have this conclusion to a show where you finish on such a massive...
Well, it goes to show you what record companies know.
Nothing.
You know, I mean,
always got a kick out of an A&R guy,
you know,
who says, "Oh, well, you know, this is not a song, and I don't like this or whatever." I'm like, "How many instruments do you play?"
Yeah, I mean, what a miscalculation, you know. And they're right there. In essence, is a true Freebird is really a true love song.
Yeah, that's one of the love songs. Yeah. There's only about two. I Need You.
Yeah,
and Freebird. You know, really is as far as lyrics go.
Wasn't it Al Cooper that insisted you put the organ?
Yeah, I believe so. Al,
you
know what? Al was great for Skynyrd. You know, he came into Atlanta. And but you know what? He never wanted to record Simple Man. No. They kicked him out of the studio and said, "We're recording it with or without you." And but he was great for Skynyrd, and you know, because he had the Sounds of the South label, which was distributed through MCA, and gave them their big break. You know, so and he was great, and they loved Al.
The performances all round on this gig at the Ryman were outstanding from start to finish. When you look at it now, where do you pitch this in terms of your live performances that you've done over many, many years? Was there a feeling that it was one of the best?
I don't know. We've done so many live things but it's the moment in time to me, and the guests that came, and the friendship and the audience. The Ryman's very small, and it was built for an acoustic guitar and somebody singing country music. But it's not for us to come in there as a loud band. We were worried about that and capturing it. But those were our true fans that came there. Small audience, great night, the moment in time. And for me personally, I haven't really thought about, was it our best live performance or whatever, but I know for me personally, it probably means more than any that we've ever done.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because of what night it was.
Yeah.
And with Gary being there, it was probably
the and most magical. Dale was there, his daughter was there, Mary. It was an interesting night, and when things like that are happening, I don't think you soak it in, but then after the moment, you go, wow, and this is one of those wows.
As we know, Gary passed away months later, but in those last exchanges over that time, he made it clear, I want our music to endure. This is after you suggested packing it in and finishing it, and his message is very simple. It's just, you got to keep playing the songs.
Yeah, he called me and he told Rickey the same thing. And said, you know what, Charlie's gone, Charlie Daniels, the Allman Brothers gone. And he said, hey, I spent my life since, but even before the plane crash, Skynyrd was everything to him. But after the plane crash, I think he felt a responsibility to carry on what Ronnie and Alan and him started. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know what, I don't want to see this music go away. And for me, myself, Rickey was there in the early days. Mm-hmm. I've been here almost 40 years. It seems like 40 seconds. And for him to say that to me, I knew that after he passed, and also what Dale said about going and playing that gig, that it was the right thing to do. And you know what? I seen some fan the other night, and he came up, and it was we were in Italy, and he said, "Thank you so much for keeping this going, because I've never seen the band live, and tonight I have my dream come true."
Yeah.
What a great thing! What a great thing!
Yeah.
It is, and it is bizarre, isn't it, that you have people not connected to you or to the family telling you to call time. But I like the fact that you came out with a quote from Merle Haggard, who said, "Honey, I don't need to be doing this, but
that was one
this
of his
is what
last
I
interviews."
do."
Yeah. And you know what? For us, me and Rickey, you know what? There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people talking smack. I pray for them. You know what? If you ain't got nothing good to say, why say it? But for us, we're family.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Skynyrd. It's always been a family unit. And you know what? I never wanted to be Ronnie. I'm not Ronnie. I never even wanted to sing the songs. I keep them in the melody, but I sing them my way. And, we're going to carry it on until the good Lord comes and gets us, or either we get too old to put on our boots and we're out of here, We'll go on vacation.
People do tend to get drawn to the tragedies that befell the band. But again, Gary was quite upfront about this, about his feelings and views on it. He said, look, I don't think of the band as a tragedy. I think of it as life. The good outweighs the bad. And that leads nicely into one of your quotes, Johnny, when you came out and just said, Lynyrd Skynyrd, it seems like when bad things happen, great things happen.
I'm a very spiritual person. And when bad things happen to you, that's when God comes into your life even more. And especially if you ask him in. Because I'm a spiritual person. I believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for all of our sins. And, the music has brought people together, not only the fans, but the band, and has kept us together all these years. And like you said, you know what I mean? There's been a lot of bad things happen. Heck, I lost my brother in this, with this band, and that hurts me dearly. But you know what? I think that he started this. He lived his life, his whole 29 years. You know what? He was focused on this band and writing great songs, and God gave him a great gift. And we're going to go out there and give it a left and a right, and play it for the people,
Did Gary actually get to see any of this on tape? Obviously not the package. He did see it.
Yeah. Some of this on tape, and he was very proud of it.
In terms of
where the heck were we at? We were in Nashville.
At the studio.
Yeah, at the studio when we started mixing.
Yeah, mixing.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, in terms of the future, the tour is going great. The reviews everywhere have been fantastic. You're playing around the world. You've got this record deal with Frontiers. Now, you've got 24 songs written and down on tape, co-written with Gary. So this must be a question of when it's going to be worked on and put out.
We recorded a song called Last of the Street Survivors back in 2019, I think it was. And it was really about Gary, him being the last of the street survivors. And we were getting ready to start making that move into the studio, but his health got bad, so we couldn't actually do it, There just wasn't enough time, and he didn't feel good, so we don't want him in the studio not feeling good, And so we put it off, and unfortunately passed. But some of these songs are written, and you know what? Never say never. I don't know. There's a lot of different things, and they crosswire with Skynyrd. And so we'll see what happens, in the future. If not, me and Ricky will record them. What the hell?
When you two are up there on stage, do you feel a presence there, maybe at a particular point in the show, or just when you look across to where maybe Gary would have been standing? Do you feel something at any time?
I look across there and I miss him. I even today, I look over there and we got a great guy playing with us now, Damon Johnson, and he's doing a phenomenal job. But I do look over there and I do miss seeing Gary's presence and he and I coming together and playing the leads in the songs. And I know that Johnny misses it when he and Gary would come together, and especially on Freebird. And you know what? You can feel their spirit, all of them, every night. You can feel that they're there with us.
Yeah. Some nights you go out there and you're like, okay, I always ask them to kick me in the rump before I go out. You go, okay, boys, knock me in the butt. Let me do a great job for you. And, but certain times, most definitely. Yeah. And some nights, because when you're on stage, the lights are dim and stuff, and you kind of visualize them all there. Hey, I was there in 86, 87, and I look over, and it's kind of weird because Peter Keys kind of reminds me at times of Billy Powell. I mean, it's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And we didn't do that on purpose. I had no clue who Peter was. And then whenever we hired him, I mean, I was like, my God, he's like Billy's younger kid or something, young kid, over there playing. And, a lot of all those guys I started with in 87 are not here now, and I look around sometimes and I go, wow, it's a little bit, it's different, of course. But, you know what? Ricky's been back in the band for
30 years.
God, yeah, for a long time. Long enough we're stuck at the head. But
listen, I know people are obsessed in this day and age with age, right? But when you get out there, do you feel like you're 30-year-olds again playing for 90 minutes because you play like it? Because I got to say, usually the first thing that goes in a band is the voice of the front man. Now, yours clearly, your voice is clearly in as good a shape now as it was when you came back in 86, 87. And Ricky's playing with this boundless energy that never ceases from start to finish.
Music keeps you young. I seen a guy that I went to high school with the other day, and I was like, oh my God, do I look that old? But, I think it keeps you young. I really do. I think that the passion for it, the love for it.
Absolutely.
And it's your bread. I figured it out. Musicians never retire. You just do less shows,
Yeah. I got to mention, just before we wrap it up, I got to mention your gospel album, Always Look Up. Now, you and your brother Donnie had a bucket list, didn't you? And this was on the bucket list of things to do. So you've done the country, you've done the gospel. What is next after that? Because I know you've been playing with a bit of acoustic.
Teaching me some stuff. I'm really sucked, but what the heck? You know what?
I get the phone call.
I know. I picked it up in 2020, because we were down, and I just started strumming a little bit more, and it's great for the mind, body, and soul. But as far as me and Donnie, you know what? We actually probably have another 20 gospel songs, and I really enjoyed singing for Jesus. So who knows? I think I may do another one of those, but we'll see what happens. And it's been a blessing to me. You know what I mean? I was looking on the internet, and a lady said that she was contemplating suicide, but she had picked up our album, listened to it, and she realized all she needed was Jesus. And I thought, what a great thing, So, and when we started it out, we said, well, if we can bring one person to Jesus, I think we've done more than that. So that's a great thing.
And I just want to, again, just rounding things off, I was reading about your backstory, your life and growing up, and I never knew this, but your dad was at Pearl Harbor.
Sure was. I took him back there for his 82nd birthday, and we had such a great time. I learned a lot about my pop. You know what? A lot of times military people don't bring out their awards or their stuff, especially when they've seen horror. And they don't want to talk about it once they're away from it. And so I learned a lot about his military service to our great country. And
was it the first time you'd been to Pearl Harbor? Because I went to Pearl Harbor. I went to Hawaii a few years back, and I went. And it is the most incredible place, because you stand there and you look at it and you imagine it's going to be 10 times the size of what it actually is. And I don't know, you do get a chill run down your spine. We went out to the North Shore.
He wanted to see the Chinaman's hat. They have a big rock out there. It looks like a Chinaman wearing a hat. And he wanted to see all the Del Monte, pineapple fields, and downtown, Royal Hawaiian Hotel is a pink hotel, an older hotel. That was the one hotel on the island at the time. And we just had an amazing time. And after he got out of the military, he was transferred to Green Cove Springs Naval Station, which is not too far from where I still live at. And now it's abandoned. And he was out there for a while, and then he got out of the Navy and went into trucking. So he was a trucker.
And that's where you used to sit in the truck singing the songs where you got the love of the music. Ricky, I just want to mention this. Things that people might not know about you. You have a love.
Oh, yes.
Of flamenco.
Many years ago, when I used to be touring with my other band, when we'd come over to Spain, I'd go to Seville. And I've been a flamenco fan since my late teens, early 20s, when I got to see Carlos Montoya. And I still listen to a massive amount of it today, and just really enjoy it. It puts me on a level that I really love.
Do you ever pick up the old Gibson J45 and play
I still know the lead.
This was the first song you ever learned on a guitar.
The lead, and I got a gig. because I knew the lead.
Johnny Van Zant and Rickey Medlocke talking to me this week. And if you don't already have a copy of this for your collection, either as a CD or preferably watch it on Blu-ray, it is available now from all major retailers. And as I said earlier, there's a really special feeling watching this. And that brings us to the end of this show. Thank you very much for watching and listening wherever you are around the world. We get a lot of email from the website from people all across the globe. So do feel free to contact us at any time, either on the website, YouTube, or Facebook channels. And stay tuned, because coming up, we're going to keep the flavour and the feel of the South on the next show, because one of the new generation of bands who were inspired growing up listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd are going to be featured, and they are called Them Dirty Roses. They come from Gadsden, Alabama, and they are, I can tell you, one of the hottest young bands out there at present. And they just released Lost in the Valley of Hate and Love Volume 2. And also, if you get a chance, check out the feature we did with another great upcoming band who will, by the way, be touring as support to The Damn Truth in November. They are Parker Barrow, again from Nashville. And to follow that, we're going to be catching up with Doug Aldridge from the Dead Daisies. What an incredible year he's had, really. They've just released their blues album. We're going to be talking about that. They've just concluded part one of their European tour before they head home, and they are going to be coming back to the UK in August. Well, that is it. Thank you once again for your company. I look forward to seeing you all again next time. Until then, from me, Tim Caple. Bye-bye for now.